Good day mga Kabayan Techers, this is your The Kabayan Tech. We're going to replace the battery of a MacBook 13-inch 2015 Retina.
Welcome. 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 Welcome.
Let's begin. So the things that we need, so I'm going to use cut resistant gloves, a plastic spludger. Okay. I have two tools here. The first one would be the T4, and this one I think is the T3 or T5. And then I have the replacement battery here, and I have the MacBook Pro 15-inch 2015 Retina. So the batteries are different. So when it comes to the Retina edition of the MacBooks, they are glued onto the case itself. So normally for the provider or the shop, they replace the actual top case, which is the top case is where your keyboard is. But if, for example, you want to save more money, it's easier to just take out the actual battery itself. So let me just put this one aside, and let's do the opening of the case first. So I'm going to use the T5 here. Make sure all the screws goes onto the same orientation on where you put it. There are some screws that are longer than the others. So this was actually a request from a friend of mine. He told me that, hey, why won't you make a video about computers since you're doing also or repairing also Apple computers? So I told him, yeah, sure. And then he sent his MacBook Pro 13-inch 2015 Retina. He also sent me the battery to replace, so I gave him the website on where he buys it. Where do you buy the batteries? You could go to AliExpress, or you could go to Alibaba, or you could go to Amazon. I'm not sponsored by anybody. My friend got the parts from a local provider here. When you take this one out, make sure you wear an anti-static wrist that's properly connected to ground. Okay, so I'm going to have myself grounded. Reason why for this one, you don't want static to go into the motherboard of the computer and risking it to be damaged. We're going to remove these connectors and also the cable connector for the keyboard and the trackpad for us to actually lift this one up. Okay, so let me do that. Now I'm going to use the T4. Again, make sure that all the screws go onto a certain location, because if you mix them up, even though they look the same, it's quite different. And then I use a black stick to take this one off. Just side by side, here, side by side again. Next, we remove this one. Okay, this is the connector. Usually, if you have issues on trackpad or keyboard that's not responding, this is usually the culprit for that issue, because it's bended too much. So the cables inside, they get broken. So I use the spludger because this is glued onto this one originally. And again, I'm taking out an original Apple battery here, right? I'm using the flat edge and I'm not forcing it. Okay, I'm just pushing it towards me until the glue, and there we go. So on this part, there is a latch on this one, so there will be a cover. So all you have to do is to lift up the cover first because it's glued. Okay, and then you will see a latch over here. So that's the latch. Then you lift it up, and then what you do is you pull it away from you. Just gently shake it back and forth. If, for example, this one got separated, it's okay as long as this one is still intact, the gold pins. Okay, then you set this one aside. So there are screws that are connected to the battery. So it's usually on this part here. So to lift up the battery connector here, there are some people that will say, hey, you should disconnect the battery first before you take out the cables, and that is true too. I'm really sorry. I do apologize. So take out the battery first. So there is a flap that sticks to the actual battery, and you could take that one out. Okay. So normally the serial number of the battery for this one is in here, and that's the one that they scan. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this cover here first. To use my T4 to remove one pentalobe here, and then this one. And there we go. So you keep these two. Those are the only two that you're going to take out, because that is the one that is connected. So this one is just a rubber It's also a screw, but that one is a screw towards the mechanism of this one. Make sure you don't hit this one with your screw because those are circuits. So I suggest you keep on covering them. And then I know there will be a cringe on this one. The one that I'm going to use is to use the heat method. There are a lot of strategies for you to take out the batteries here, but what I use is I use the heat method. I use 180 Celsius with the heat blower, or you could use just a ordinary hair blower, and then you heat it from the other side. But before we do that, I have to take out speakers here using my black stick here. I'm going to go at the back of the connector and remove this one. So make sure you don't mess this one up, and there you go. So we lift this one out. Just be careful that you lift it out, it goes up. And this is the connector for the left speaker. Again, using the T4, take out the screw first with this one. So there are 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3. Then they go on a certain orientation too. Make sure you take note of that part. I told my friend that this one has like, hey, you have liquid damage on your computer. What did you do? Probably spilled coffee on it. So we cannot force it out because there is a part here that where the cable is. So how it works supposedly is if this one isn't like water damage, you lift it up from here and then you take it out from and slide it out. Not working as what we expected it to be. And there we go. Next would be on this side where the speaker is, double-sided glue on this part, which is the cable in here. So your option is for you to take this one out too. So this one just, so see, it's easier to take this one out because there's no like liquid damage on it. This part, this goes up. You could use a black stick because there is a double-sided tape underneath it for it to stay. So I'm just going to pry it a bit and then rock it side to side so that the connector will go up. There we go. And make sure that all the pins in here are still intact. We're going to begin with removing this part. So I start off by removing the smaller ones, the bigger one, and then the middle. So I start either from the left or the right. It depends on you. Whatever works for you, you could do that method. I'm just sharing you what my experience would be in removing the battery based on the success that I get. I'm going to start off with this. So I'm going to heat up this part. Okay, I saw some of my other colleagues, they use a hot plate on this part, and that's okay too. It's the same process. Let's do this one. My blower is preheated to 200 as my gauge. How do you know if it's like really too hot? If you touch the plate, the aluminum plate, and it's a little bit hot that it stinks, then you stop, right? You could use a hair blower on this one again. That is perfectly okay. It's up to you. But I use my blower here. It's the same thing that I use when I'm removing back glass. I can still hold it. It's a little bit warm. So we just wait. And there are some people that they will suggest, oh, you could directly heat it from this way. I'm not comfortable of doing that. So do it this way. I know it takes patience for this. Let's see if we could try it out now. So I'm going to use a plastic spludger. The way that I do this is either do it this way or I do it this way. Depends which method you are comfortable with. So I just slide it from left to right, and you will see because it's heated up, it's a little bit easier. You can take this one out because these are all connected, and then you could slide to the next one if you want. If there is a lot of like resistance to it, then that's the time that you could use like the heater gun again. But if there's none, and then you're pretty much okay with this one. So you might notice that there are double-sided tape, and that's the reason why we are heating it up. Next is we're going to heat up this part so we could remove it. I would suggest once this one is disconnected, you could use a painter's tape. Have it this way, or you could have it from here. Reason why for this one, so at least because it's already disconnected, right? So we're just making the battery safe. Heating it up to 200, just do circling, and then it's the same principle. If it's too hot to touch, then you stop. Okay. So again, same process here. Either you do it from here or do it from this one. It depends on the width of your spludger. So again, if there's like a resistance to it, I would suggest that you heat it up again. You just have to gently rock it back and forth, and then you will see that it's not fighting anymore. Oh, this one is good. So again, I'm going to put a painter's tape on this one. There are two ways for you to remove this. Okay? Either you heat it up from the trackpad and then you go from here, or you go from here. Usually what I do is I go from one side, which is on this part, or either on this. So let's heat it up again, and then I'm going to heat up this part. A few questions might arise. You will ask me, are there any mechanism on this one? Yes, there is, but if it's not really that hot that you're going to melt down everything, again, if it's hot to touch already for the plate, then you stop. If you're not comfortable of heating up your trackpad, that's okay, that's your prerogative. You could either use the spludger and then spludge it all the way through. Okay, I noticed that it's a little bit warmer now, so I could try. So I'm going to go from this side, and then you will see that your stick, which is on this one, will go underneath with this bar. So you lift it gently, this part, so that your plastic spludger will go onto the middle portion. So we do it this way. So, and that's the same reason why I don't use a metal spludger. Something happens, please, you don't poke the battery and it won't create any thermal event. So that's the time that I could rotate this one here, because there's like circuitry here, and then I could do it this way. So at least I don't heat it. And then you might notice we release this one. I'm going to take out this tape and take out this one on the other side. So I'm going to stick this one here. Then again, if you want to heat up everything in here, you could do that. And you might also notice that I'm speaking now in English instead of my language, which is Filipino. It's because I did have some comments if I could have it in English so that they could understand. There are some, you know, non-Filipino speakers who are watching our videos, so I want to make it a little bit universal for everybody. So pardon my English and pardon my Filipino, but I'm trying to do this one for everyone. So it's hot to touch. Then I go onto this side. This part, you lift it up gently. You find a space over here, rock it back and forth, and then left to right. Don't do it this way. Do it this way, flat. Make sure that the surface underneath doesn't have any shards or any stone, because it will damage or scratch the enclosure. And if you're doing this one for somebody else, you don't want ending up that, you know what, you damage their computer physically. If you see the yellow sticking out in here, you could actually go from the front. You won't be hitting this one because you have a clearance already to gently rock it left to right, and that's the cringe that we're looking at. So let's do this part again. There's still some glue that didn't stick out. There we go. Again, I would strongly suggest for you to responsibly dispose of this. These are batteries. There are some depots that will take it. So this is the time that I take out this sticker. So I put the whole thing on the painter's tape so that they don't split up. So there are some steps here, and this is the actual battery that we have. There are some screws that you could use. Again, you see that they are, the double-sided tape is there, and then we dispose it this way. So you might notice that the location where we took out the battery has some stickies. You could actually heat this one up. This is the only time that I suggest you heating it up. Okay, if it's hot to touch, then you stop. Okay, after you heat it up, there are times that you could easily remove it. Again, you don't need to have it like really perfect. If there is some black that will just, you know, stay there, as long as the majority of the surface you could actually take out. There are some that will tell you or make a comment that you should cover this one, and you are perfectly correct. You can do that one too. Just to avoid static, you could grab like a transparency film just to cover it. For you to put back everything, it's the same process. So the battery has a double-sided tape on them, so all you have to do is just remove it, okay, and make sure that you don't remove the plastic on the top. So you do it this way, this bottom part, and then you let it just slide through and lay it down. You will notice that there is a film. You have to take this one out. I use the black stick, and then I'm just going to slide through my fingers here, there, and the last one is there. Okay. Now we're going to put back everything. So let's start off with the speakers. I'm going to have this one fast forward, so because you already seen this one, so you just have to press this one and put all the screws. And this one has a screw on them, the one that you took out a while ago, for it to come back. Okay, we're not going to put it back yet. This one that connects the I/O to the main board. Then we're going to put back the plate on one side here and then use again the T4 to put it back. So before we put this one, the last part, we have to put the keyboard cable flex. The gold contacts, they go in here. So all you have to do is to slide this one through and just, gently slide it left to right until it sits. So you might notice that there will be like flex edges on this one. You could use the pointed edge of the black stick for you to really push it in. So you could just push this latch going down to lock it. Glue this one. And then this goes onto this part. And then this will just snap into the connector. There we go. Putting back the screws. Be careful, there are some batteries that are pre-charged, so make sure that you ground yourself when you're putting this one back in. Then we're going to do some series of keyboard shortcuts for us to update the system here. So what I do is, the cover, I'm not going to screw it yet. I put the cover first. You might notice that you could also put the 4 screws at the edge first. Press this one, you will hear some snapping. Those are the clips. So I'm going to do this one and not fully screw everything. It's because if something goes wrong, I could just easily open it. There are some that they don't even cover this one. They lay it from the side and then they test first and see if there's like any issues. Okay, so this is the connector. We're going to boot it up. I'm going to have it charged. What to do is we're going to do what you call a SMC reset. So I press Shift, Control, Option, and the power button for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. You might notice this will turn green and turn back red again. So we have reset the power controller for that part. Next, we're going to do what you call the NVRAM or the PRAM. So we're going to press Option, Command, R and P, and the power all at the same time. It will chime, then still pressing, it will turn off again, and then the next chime, you have to lift everything up. There we go. Okay, and that's it mga Kabayan Techers. This is your The Kabayan Tech. Kindly subscribe and hit the like button and the notification bell for you to know if we have new fresh content. Again, thank you very much and have a good day.